On October 12, 2016, Kris Fowler went missing while hiking at Mount Rainier National Park in Washington. 7 years later, a bear hunter stumbled upon human remains near a stream called Trumpet Creek. The remains were found at the southern base of the mountain. They were severely damaged, with the skull, forearms, and lower leg bones missing. Forensic testing confirmed the remains belonged to Kris Fowler, the backpacker who disappeared in 2016. What's strange is that his remains were found at the stream, but his backpack was discovered much higher up. It was located at an elevation of 13,000 feet on Little Tahoma Peak, nearly 35 miles away. Kris's death remains an unsolved mystery. Authorities have yet to provide a clear explanation. Online speculation about his disappearance runs wild. None of the theories offer a solid answer for what happened to him on that mountain. Some believe Kris was searching for something hidden in the wilderness. Others suggest he might have been a victim of something sinister. Kris Fowler was born in Norfolk, Virginia in 1982. He was 34 years old when he went missing. After his parents divorced when he was 12, he lived with his father and stepmother, Sally. She treated him like her own son. Growing up, Kris was kind-hearted, smart, and naturally athletic. His love for the outdoors started young. His family often went camping in the mountains. The forest became his sanctuary, a place where he could find peace and quiet. Sally described Kris as a warm person who easily made friends. He wasn't just passionate about nature. He was also an accomplished hiker. He was known in the hiking community for his impressive endurance and survival skills. Over time, he built a fan base on Facebook. He shared his adventures and inspired others. Untouched wilderness was his ultimate challenge. He often went on trips lasting weeks or even months. Even after getting married, Kris's passion for hiking didn't waver. However, his obsession with the wild strained his marriage. In 2015, after many arguments with his wife over his frequent absences, they divorced. Kris quit his job at a logistics company. He threw himself fully into planning his next big adventure. And then, just a year later, he vanished. In October 2016, Kris Fowler and his childhood friend, Clint, planned a hike to Mount Rainier National Park, a place often called the Pacific Crest. The two had climbed countless peaks together over the years. However, during this trip, they decided to split up after hiking for a short time. They stayed in touch via their phones, sharing updates about their journey. Kris was known for taking his time at every spot, often captivated by the smallest details in nature. Throughout his hike, he kept in contact with friends and family, sharing photos and stories on social media. But after October 12th, his family never heard from him again. That day, Kris was last seen near White Pass, heading toward Mount Rainier. Authorities say this was the last confirmed sighting of him. Following his disappearance, a massive search operation was launched. The search was focused primarily around Mount Rainier. News of Kris's disappearance quickly spread, drawing attention from media outlets and hiking enthusiasts. Volunteers from all over came to help in the search. Eventually, a volunteer group found Kris's backpack on Little Tahoma Peak. The bag was still in good condition, containing his personal belongings. The discovery of the backpack raised hopes that Kris's remains were nearby. But despite continued efforts, no other clues about his fate were found. For 7 years, his disappearance remained a mystery. Then, on September 10, 2023, local police received a startling call. A bear hunter reported finding human remains near Trumpet Creek at the base of Mount Rainier. When authorities arrived, they were faced with a grim scene. The remains were missing a skull, forearms, and lower leg bones. The body was lying cold in the stream, with no sign of any nearby objects or evidence. Forensic testing confirmed that the remains belonged to Kris Fowler. The bear hunter recalled seeing a long spine 30 feet downstream. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be part of Kris's skeleton. Some believe Kris's death was caused by a severe snowstorm that struck Mount Rainier at the time. Reports confirm there was indeed a once-in-20-years storm on the mountain that year. Kris may have gotten lost in the blizzard and succumbed to the harsh conditions. Given his experience, Kris should have been able to find a way to save himself, said a fellow mountaineer familiar with him. Kris had prior experience hiking in snowy conditions, making his situation all the more puzzling. Moreover, the location where his remains were found, at the base of the mountain, was less likely to be affected by the snowstorm. One theory suggests Kris became prey for wild animals. Mount Rainier is home to bears, cougars, and wolves. If Kris got lost, he could have become a target for these predators. However, this theory was challenged by the bear hunter who found Kris's remains. He noted that the damage to Kris's bones suggested severe trauma, not typical of animal attacks. Bears and wolves don't cause such extensive destruction to bones. Additionally, Kris's body showed signs of multiple fractures, with no bite marks found on the skeleton. Even more baffling, his clothing was missing, and no fabric remnants were discovered nearby. If animals had attacked him, scraps of clothing should have been scattered in the area. The condition of the scene suggested that Kris's clothes might have been removed by someone and discarded. Another theory speculates that Kris was murdered, though no clear motive has been identified. Kris had no known enemies or financial disputes. By the time he embarked on this trip, he was already broke, having quit his job and carrying minimal supplies. He often relied on help from friends and lived off foraged food, like wild plants and fruits. If robbery were the motive, it wouldn't make sense for his backpack to remain intact, and for his remains to be left in such a peculiar state. A final theory comes from Kris's friend, Clint. He believes Kris ventured to Mount Rainier in search of a mythical graveyard. Kris had been fascinated with stories of graveyards since childhood. He once recounted a chilling childhood memory to Clint. As a boy, Kris got lost in the mountains during a family trip. Terrified, he suddenly heard a knocking sound from the forest wood striking wood. When he turned around, he saw a large, hairy creature standing in front of him. The creature didn't harm him. Instead, it handed Kris some wild fruit. Then, the figure led Kris back toward the campsite, where his family eventually found him crying for help. This encounter left a lasting impression on Kris. Clint believes Kris's fascination with this memory might have driven him to explore the wilderness further. Similar disappearances have happened before, like the infamous Casey Hathaway case in 2019. Casey, a young boy, vanished from his grandmother's backyard. As the first day of searching ended, temperatures dropped below freezing, and hopes of his survival faded. 3 days later, searchers followed a lead about a child crying in the woods. Casey was found in a forest half a mile from where he disappeared. He was alive, though how he survived remains unexplained. The boy was found trapped in a thicket, calling out loudly for his mother. Aside from a few scratches, he was physically unharmed. According to the boy, a big man had been with him during his disappearance. The big man, as Casey described, was a standing bear-like figure, covered in thick hair, towering over an adult male in height. Casey believed it was this big man who kept him safe, took him away, and eventually returned him to the search area. Such stories have parallels in older accounts. In 1924, Albert Ostman, a lumberjack, claimed he was abducted by a Sasquatch family and held captive for 6 days. However, they did not harm him, and he eventually escaped. Another similar incident dates back to 1868, involving an alleged kidnapping by a hairy, upright bear. Some argue these bear-like figures might not actually be bears. In 2022, a hunter claimed he narrowly escaped being kidnapped by a Sasquatch while hunting. The hunter unintentionally captured a chilling image of the creature during the encounter, further fueling the mystery surrounding these legendary beings. He was filming a nighttime trail when a creature, covered in thick hair, suddenly appeared behind him. Mount Rainier National Park, located in northwest Washington state, is a vast forested area spanning 954 square kilometers, with its highest peak reaching 4,400 meters. 95% of the park remains in its original, untouched state, surrounded by canyons, waterfalls, and glaciers. For years, the park has been home to legends of large, hairy creatures, often referred to locally as Mogollons is a term used in parts of the US to describe Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Witness accounts frequently mention these mysterious beings producing loud thud-thud sounds by knocking on wood, which inspired the name. Mogollons are described as having a muscular build and broad shoulders, capable of lifting a grown man with one hand. Their fur is often depicted as brown or gray, though some sightings report silver fur. They are said to forage in the forests and even wade into rivers to catch fish. Some reports describe reddish-brown humanoid figures walking through streams. In the US, the North American Mogollon Protection Society specializes in researching these mysterious creatures. The team has collected numerous witness accounts, audio recordings, and hair samples, suggesting that Mogollons possess extraordinary intelligence and complex personalities. They have been known to shake trees, attack homes, and even abduct children. If Colleen's claims are true, and Kris was indeed killed by a Mogollon, the question remains, why was he seeking out such a fearsome creature? Perhaps his childhood encounter, where he believed a Mogollon saved him, led him to see them as gentle beings, inspiring his search. Driven by curiosity, he wanted to experience another mysterious encounter. Just like those fascinated by dangerous animals, people like that often think differently from the rest of us. Perhaps Kris didn't realize that the mugwump could have a violent side. Todd Standing, an independent Bigfoot investigator, once said that Bigfoot is a real creature, with incredible strength and sharp intelligence. These creatures are not only aware of human capabilities, but have also witnessed humans hunting animals. They may even understand the danger posed by firearms, which is why they often view lone adults in the mountains with hostility. Kris might not have carried a gun, but his actions could have been perceived as threatening. During the search for Kris, a volunteer reported being targeted by a bear-like creature that threw a rock at him. The volunteer also saw a dark figure moving through the forest, but when he went to investigate, it had vanished. Later, he captured a photo of what appeared to be a human-like footprint. At the time, Kris seemed to be enjoying the best days of his life. He had plans to find a job and save up money, so he could embark on a new journey each year. The last time he spoke with his stepmother, Sally, was on September 30th, 2016. Kris mentioned that he was a little tired, but otherwise doing fine. He assured her that he would reunite with the family after his trip. Tragically, that reunion never happened. Kris's father, Mike, passed away in 2017 due to illness, never knowing what really happened to his son. Now, 8 years later, the mystery of Kris's disappearance remains unsolved. Mount Rainier continues to stand silently, bearing witness to the passage of time and the joys and sorrows of human lives. It may forever keep the secrets of what happened to Kris hidden within its forests.